Vince McMahon's House of Sports Entertainment could also be seen as Vince McMahon's House of Emotions, because rarely has anyone in the wrestling world put so much effort when it comes to focusing on emotional states when it comes to wrestling content. And one well-known emotion might just be the most important to focus on in sports entertainment, which is why it's the topic of this episode. Because today, Dave knows Schadenfreude and wrestling. Schadenfreude is the experience of feeling pleasure or satisfaction at someone else's misfortune, suffering, or humiliation. And the term derives from two German words, Schaden meaning harm and Freude meaning joy. Now, this emotional response is something that is widely felt across humanity as a whole, and this might trouble some of you, but don't worry because it's not as sadistic as it sounds, since sadism is a lot more intense, let's just put it that way. Meanwhile, even children experience Schadenfreude. For example, some kids just love it when grown-ups hurt themselves. They find it hilarious. Now, this is also the reason why things like fail videos are just so popular, as well as many other rather tame forms of entertainment at the cost of a little misfortune. And with this, the connection between wrestling and Schadenfreude seems fairly obvious. Wrestling fans enjoy watching wrestling because it's people getting hurt. Schadenfreude achieved? Obvious enough, right? Well, not so fast, because there is more to it than just that. Like for instance, why does Schadenfreude work in the first place? Well, to be fair, we're not exactly 100% certain, but there are still some current leading ideas that may just give us some possible answers, as there is research that suggests that humans experience Schadenfreude for three main reasons. First is justice. Humans can naturally rationalize enjoying the suffering of someone else if they feel that that person deserves it. For example, if someone is a braggart, then it's fun to see them getting humbled. If someone is mean, then it's fitting that something mean happened to them. And if someone is doing something that everybody has warned them not to do, then it serves them right if something bad happens to them for doing it anyway. And with this being such common thinking, we can begin to see how this specifically translates to wrestling. We want to see the cocky, arrogant heel get humbled. We want the mean bad guy to get his comeuppance. And when we see someone about to do some really dangerous stunt, we really want to mark out when they do it. But furthermore than this, there's also the idea of respect. We can only imagine how much something crazy like this hurts, so if someone can do this and survive, well, we give them props for doing so. Now, with as much sense as this makes, we could even stop the video right here. But remember, there are still two other leading beliefs on why Schadenfreude works. And the next reason that we're going to talk about is rivalry. If, let's say, you're competing against someone and your rival fails, you, unsurprisingly, might just take some pleasure in their failure. But since wrestling isn't actually competitive, and since the fans themselves are not really competing, this wouldn't really add up as a reason to why wrestling fans have Schadenfreude. However, what does is that this rivalry aspect works on more than just a mere individual level, because a rivalry can also happen as part of a group too, and you don't even necessarily have to be in the competing group specifically to take place in Schadenfreude when it's on this level. For instance, let's look at sports teams. Even if you're not on a professional sports team and you're just a fan of one, you can still experience Schadenfreude if your team's rival team loses. So when taking this to professional wrestling, fans can experience this when we get matches like the Shield going against the Wyatts or the NWO going against the Horsemen. But also when you're a fan of an individual wrestler and he has a kayfabe rivalry against another, that fictional feud can easily be turned into a friendly rivalry in real life between two different fan bases. And also, when we see a rival wrestler lose his belt to the wrestler that we've been supporting and we celebrate, well, that's just another form of Schadenfreude. But now, to probe a little bit more, the logic behind this is simple. If our competitor loses, then it might just mean that we win by default. But what if this mentality goes even deeper? What if we aren't looking for a practical win against a rival? What if we see someone else doing badly and it just makes us feel better about ourselves? Well, that would be the last reason up for discussion. Insecurity, because there's the hypothesis that maybe our joy in the downfall of others really comes from our fears about ourselves. As some just take pleasure in knowing that when they see something bad happening to someone else, they know that means that it's not happening to them. Or if they see someone else making a mistake that they've already made, well, they feel good knowing that they're not the only one. Because there are some who would claim that John Cena getting his nose broken in a match with Seth Rollins is just that. Some smarks enjoyed watching the injury because Cena represents a side of wrestling that they hate, and as such, some people also felt that he deserved it and that his pain made them feel better about themselves. Which brings us to the darker side of Schadenfreude. While it's normally just a mild form of entertainment aimed at a low-level failure, sometimes sometimes, especially when dealing with insecurity or when anger becomes righteous anger, we see some people who take extreme pleasure in watching celebrities getting taken down. It's why there are people who enjoy or even work to see famous people having their careers ruined. It's also the reason why trolls and tabloids exist, all because there are those who want more than just a slight thrill at someone else's expense, but rather they have a strong desire to see someone famous getting completely sabotaged. But there might be some of you wondering what's really the difference here. Why is someone coughing during a cinnamon challenge an acceptable guilty pleasure, but taking enjoyment out of seeing a celebrity lose their livelihood over a tweet they made years ago considered less than admirable? Well, it all has to do with the amount of suffering that's transpiring for sure, but more so, it has to do with the context in which the events are happening. If someone posts a video of themselves failing a jump on their skateboard, well, then that person is probably okay with you laughing at the video. However, if someone loses a career that they worked their entire lives for just because of a joke they made years ago, then maybe enjoying their pain is just a little bit too harsh. But ultimately, this is where wrestling thrives in my opinion, because wrestlers are putting themselves out there specifically for your entertainment. And unlike other professional athletes, wrestlers are willing to expose themselves to the brunt of Schadenfreude. They'll play up being a despicable heel, arrogant, cruel, disrespectful to the audience. They'll do anything to be hated by the crowd just so you can love to watch them lose, watch them suffer, and watch them fail. And while your average celebrity isn't looking to get taken down, wrestlers know that they're a target. They know that there will always be an audience who wants to see famous people crash and burn for no other reason other than committing the crime of, well, being famous. And fine, while these wrestlers don't want to have their careers ruined for real, they are still providing wrestling fans with a kayfabe experience that scratches that Schadenfreude itch. As a result, we as wrestling fans can take solace in knowing that when we find entertainment in watching wrestlers we hate lose, or watching a wrestler really sell a big finisher, or seeing them in actual pain due to a sick bump, we know that while we may be very real about our Schadenfreude, at least we're also keeping it kayfabe. But what do you think? Is Schadenfreude acceptable human behavior, and what's considered going too far? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe right here to Dave Knows Wrestling. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, Dave knows.